Hi, it's Feature from Sewmate. Welcome to my channel. If you want to see how I make this off-shoulder frill dress, please stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. And make sure to turn on your notification bell so that each time I upload new videos, you get notified. You will need a no-dart bodice block to do this. I've got a tutorial on this channel on how you can make one. I'll leave a link in the description below and the link above as well. So I'm going to be using the back bodies to draft both the front and back patterns. So first trace around your block as usual, making sure to mark your notches. Lift your block. Extend your dress to your desired length. I'm gonna be adding 40 centimeters to the hip line, square line across and square line down the hip line. Square in your waistline. Now I'm putting in my hem allowance 2 centimeters. Now at the hemline, we're going to come in by 2 centimeters, put a mark, and we're going to join this point to the hip line with a straight line so that we form the pencil line silhouette. This part is not included in our pattern anymore. And with your curved ruler, blend in everything like I'm doing here. Next, square in your underarm line. Now measure and mark halfway along the armhole. Put a mark and square a straight line using this point. Extend it a little further like I'm doing here. Measure between these 2 points and get half the amount. Transfer it to the armhole like I'm doing here. Half the amount. Put a mark. So I got 20 centimeters between these 2 points, and then I'm gonna transfer 10 centimeters to the side like I'm doing here. Now connect these 2 points with a straight line. This new line is going to help us with the angle for our sleeve. Now with your curved ruler, draw in your desired neckline like I'm doing here. Next, I'm going to be using a strap of 5 centimeters width. So I'm just gonna go around following the curved neckline up to the armhole there, 5 centimeters. So I'm just gonna go a little further like I've done for the front pattern. So the width of the strap is 5 centimeters. Now I'm adding a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. And a seam allowance to our neckline as well, 1 centimeter. You can use whatever seam allowance you like. Now coming to this little extension that we left here, we're going to come in by 3 centimeters and put a mark. At the underarm point, we're going to go up 1 centimeter and in 1 centimeter to adjust for the sleeveless armhole. Put a mark. And then we're going to redraw our armholes using this point. Connect this point to the waistline with a straight line like I'm doing here, so this part is not included in our pattern anymore. And then we're going to redraw our armholes. Starting with the front armhole and then the back armhole. So I'm just going to put a notch here to show the front armhole and then the back armhole with 2 notches. Then we're going to continue with the seam allowance for the front as well. Now I'm just going to blend in the corners because I'll be using an overlocker to sew this. I need it to be easy for me to process these areas. Now measure along the seam allowance and write down the measurement. This will help us when we come to making the pattern for the frill. So this line is going to represent both our center back and center front. Adding notches to my pattern and labeling the pattern dress front and back, cut one on fold for each, and I put my initial. So center back and center front are going to be on fold. Now adding my grain line parallel to the center back and center front. Now cut around your pattern, fold back along the hemline and continue cutting like I'm doing here. Now our main dress pattern is finished. Now we're going on to making the frill. Now for the frill pattern, we're going to use a full circle skirt pattern. So what we need is to look for the radius. Now take your neckline measurement and multiply by 4. Then you're going to consider your seam allowances at the shoulder seams here. I've got 2 seams, meaning 4 seam allowances. My patterns have seams included already. So if yours don't have any seams, don't subtract this amount, just subtract the 2.5 centimeters, which is our stretch factor, okay? And then whatever you get, divide that by 6.28 to get a full circle skirt radius. So for me, it's 25 times 4 minus seam allowances, which is 3 centimeters, minus 2.5 centimeters stretch factor, and divide that by 6.28, I get 15.04. Then I rounded it off to 15 centimeters. Then decide on your frill width. I'm going to be using 20 centimeters. Now let's start drafting the circle skirt pattern. Draw a straight line first like I'm doing, and then square a straight line using this line on another end. From the corner here, we're going to put in our radius. I'm using 15 centimeters like I calculated. Use your specific one as well, and just continue pivoting your ruler around from that corner point 15 centimeters all the way through. With your curved ruler, just blend in the circle. So this is my radius line. From the radius line, I'm going to go on and measure 20 centimeters for my frill width, okay? So 20 centimeters following through the radius line that we drawn previously. Blend in everything with the curved ruler like I'm doing. Now adding seam allowances at the top and bottom 1 centimeter. And blending in everything with a curved ruler. Now labeling the pattern, dress frill, cut 1 on 4 folds, and I put my initial. And adding my grain line to the center of the pattern because most of it is going to be cut on bias anyway. Cut around your pattern like I'm doing here. So I've got a detailed tutorial for circle skirt patterns, many different ones. I have circle, 3/4 circle, quarter circle, etc. If you want to see that, I'll put a link in the description below and a link above as well. And the frill pattern's finished. Now all my patterns are finished and we're moving on to sewing. Now on to sewing our off-shoulder ruffle dress. What you need are your completed patterns, your fabric, and your cutting tools. For the fabric, I'm going to be using this beautiful moderate stretch scuba fabric. So now let's move on to cutting. Now take this to the overlocker and you're going to go ahead and sew along the shoulder seams here and the side seams for both sides. If you are using a sewing machine, make sure to use a zigzag stitch so that it stretches along as you wear the dress. Let's go and do that. Okay, now so that's done. So next we're going to go ahead and overlock the armholes, turn it under by 1 centimeter, and just give it a top stitching for both sides. Okay, when we finish that, we're going to go ahead and overlock right around our hem here. Whilst we're there, we're also going to get our ruffle, and we're going to go ahead and overlock right around the bottom edge. Okay, when we finish that, we're also going to go ahead and turn the bottom edge under like this and give it a top stitching, okay, right around the bottom edge. Let's go and do all that. Okay, now so that's done. Now we're going to go ahead and finish off our neckline. So with your dress wrong side facing up like this, we're going to go ahead and insert the whole neckline of the dress through the hole of our ruffle like this. Okay, put the neckline in between, like sandwich your neckline like this, and we're going to go ahead and pin along the neckline here. Now take this to the overlocker and sew along the neckline. If you are using a sewing machine, make sure to continue using a zigzag stitch, but you may need to use a smaller zigzag stitch this time around. Let's go and do that. Okay, now so we finished off sewing our neckline. So what we're going to do is to go ahead and understitch it. So just roll your seam allowance towards the dress, and we're going to sew right round along that side towards the dress. Okay, we don't need any stitching onto our ruffle here. Then when we finish that, we're going to go ahead and hem our dress. So just turn it under by 2 centimeters and give it a top stitching. Just make sure to stretch a little bit as you go along. Let's go and do that. Okay, now so I finished understitching the ruffle. Hopefully you can see that with a tiny zigzag stitch. And I also went ahead and finished off my hem. And my dress is finished, and I'm happy with the result. Thank you.